Epstein, he buys up all these scientists. They get laid off down there in New Mexico, and he buys them all up and he starts hiring them. And he does it for edge.org. What they're trying to do is they're trying to solve the psychoid layer. The psychoid layer is like where you know the world is magic. Like, you know this is a realm of God. But you forget, and you go back to work to make money, to pay the bills, and you get into the toil of things. But you really know that it's a spiritual realm. But they know it's a spiritual realm. They don't have a secondary thing. They already have all the money, so they're just figuring out what the psychoid is. So the way that they would try to solve the psychoid is through the wave interference pattern. The wave interference pattern is where they shoot these electrons through these two slits. And as you observe the electron, it stays in physical form. But if you're not observing it, the electrons turn into waves, and the waves can split between slits, and whenever they go through, they bounce off each other, and then those waves bounce and those waves bounce, and it causes a wave interference pattern. That's not exact, but that's the basics behind it. Because I don't want some asshole telling me, let's roll this slightly this. I know what it is. Because the reason I know what it is because that's what they're studying, and they're studying the way that these fractal patterns happen in reality. And once you understand that, you kind of can understand that money isn't real. It's an illusion. But you believe it's real, but really it's energy. And it's these little energy bubbles that exist beyond the veil of consciousness. Beyond the veil are energy bubbles, and in the energy bubbles, they have modalities. And these modalities have codes that are not changeable. But you can project onto them through these waves and call it a submodality, which slightly changes the energy. So you're broke, you're poor, you have money, you don't have money. It's not real. And try your best. Something happens. That's the way it is. That's why you have $10,000 and you're like, saved it up. Whoops, the motor blown up. I have zero. Because it's energy. It's a flow of energy. So they want to solve that, and they also want to solve the translatory language beyond the Yoganandan dialect, this language that gets spoken, grunts and symbols from the ancient times, which form onto these modalities symbols that have entanglements, and those entanglements have emotional charge and all this stuff. And it's too much for the human mind. Like, you can see it happening. You can watch it happening, and people can walk along with me and they'll be like, oh my God, that's freaking no way that you could do that. No way. But it's just because it's just really obvious. It's really obvious. That's why I think that they're doing the aliens anyways, because if they start tampering with this stuff, you're going to see some weird stuff happening, you know? Obviously, some weird things are going to happen if somebody's messing with that kind of stuff. We already had CERN. We already have the Mandela effect. And that could be explained pretty easily through neurolinguistic coding. If you start tampering with the neurolinguistic code of the universal mind, it's the dialect. If you touch the dialect slightly, you could transform. When you change the neurolinguistics, you don't just change the moment. You change what the moment has always been and what it will be in the future. And you can just alter those things. It's just... I sometimes think maybe that's what when Jesus could see it, he already could tell. He knew it. He already knew he was in the psychoid all the time. Because he knew he was in the psychoid. So he didn't have an illusion of a false world. He was just in the psychoid. So you would just touch on these waves. And if each wave is bumping onto each other, causing the pattern of another wave, which bounces on and causes another wave, you could just add certain submodalities to these waves. So submodality is like a table. A table exists. But whenever I said the word table, you thought of a certain table. So I am saying it must be a table. But you're saying it could be many types of tables. So the type of table is the submodality. So the modality could be hair. Hair. What type of hair exists? But you project onto it what type of hair it is, long or short, and that is a reflection of your inner psyche speaking to you in accordance with the entanglements of your emotional life. Your emotional life is entangled with physical reality through this and projected onto the modality in the form of a submodality. And that's just the way it really is. And it's like, it's super complicated to say, but if you just see it, you just go, yeah, it's right there. It's freaking obvious.